So, well, one thing for the questions is because we'll edit out us asking them, so if you could just restate the question.
Oh,
And
okay.
then,
It just kind of like
yeah.
in like a normal way.
Okay.
So, first was, how much sleep would you say the average child should need per night?
Okay, so the average sleep that a teenager would need can range from 6 hours to 12 hours. Ideally, you would get between 7 and 8.5 hours of sleep per night.
Would you say a lot of the kids in the school, especially extracurricular activities, are getting that 6 to 8 hours or 7 to 8 hours?
No, I can tell you for sure that they're likely not getting it, not just related to extracurriculars, but also video gaming and being on the computer, on the phone, media, social media.
Is there anything as too much sleep? Like, is that a thing?
If someone is excessively sleeping, the diagnosis would be made based on the whole week or a few weeks, not one night. So it's very common for teenagers to go to bed, like on, let's say, a Friday night, and they may not get up till 1 o'clock the next day. But during the week, they're able to go to bed between 10 and 11 or 11 and 12 and still get up and go to school. They may be tired in the morning, and that's part of the issue of not getting enough sleep. But it also has to do with the circadian rhythms of a teenage person, in that you're most awake about an hour or two after school starts versus like when they typically start school here, which is why some states have actually changed the timing of high schools to a later start time, but not here.
So, do you think school should start later than 7:30?
I think scientifically speaking, medically speaking, it would benefit students to start later. The problem is then everything gets pushed a little later. So you want to try to include the sports and having games, and that kind of makes everything much later. So it does make it a little more difficult. I think that if we can somehow find a way to condense the school day, maybe make it overall a little bit shorter. I don't think that's going to happen either, because we're always trying to take a lot of classes, AP classes. But I think, physically it would benefit them to go in later.
How much would you say sleep deprivation, or just a lack of sleep, impacts grades and test scores?
Well, they have proven that if you don't get enough sleep, your brain has difficulty maintaining memory. So, for example, if you try to crash study for an exam the day before and you're staying up all night, or even till 3 a.m, that it's very difficult for the brain to retain that information, versus small amounts of learning over several days and then sleeping helps to cement that memory, and that that thought process sticks better in the brain.
Is that what you would recommend for, say, somebody with extracurricular activities or an athlete who maybe has 1 or 2 hours every other day? Would you recommend studying in pieces?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the best way to do it, because unfortunately, it also takes a lot of planning, because you have to map out all of your things. It's not one class, right? I mean, I have 4 teenagers, so it's not one class. It's like the 5 classes that all have projects due. Maybe the school has a way to better understand who is assigning what. Like if somebody who is very smart and intelligent with computers can come up with a program where your schedule kind of show up, and teachers could have a better idea of when to assign those longer term projects. But I doubt that's going to happen. So yes, small chunks, and being alert and awake, eating regularly, and if you can use that time, it's way more effective than spending 6 hours, in the middle of the night.
So with a student athlete or a student with extracurricular activities, they're constantly working their bodies rigorously, and then plus not sleeping enough. Are there any foods or any health nutritional things that could possibly help them either sleep better or?
So that's a good question. I'm sorry, I'm not repeating your question.
No,
so in order to for students to be the best achievers that they can be, eating small regular meals with protein, complex carbohydrates, meaning brown rice, whole wheat breads, fish does help with your thinking. Those really good fatty oils like olive oil versus fried food, choosing a more whole foods diet and eating those small frequent meals during the day can sometimes fuel you better, and therefore your performance in your athletics is better, and also your learning will be better. I think that it's just a difficult time, and so you do your best to try to get through that. At nighttime, to try to help go to sleep, it's important not to eat things that are going to stimulate reflux, like spicy foods, sauces, but to stick more with something like oatmeal or a glass of milk or bananas seem to, for some reason, help people to kind of feel a little bit more sleepy.
What would you say the general side effects are during the day of built up lack of sleep or sleep deprivation?
The build-up effect of lack of sleep can include falling asleep during class, the inability to retain information that the teacher is giving you because you're sort of zoned out, irritability. Sometimes it can lead to more drama happening because you're tired and you're cranky, and we all know how we feel when that happens, when you're just not feeling your best. And so I think it affects your social life as well as your academic life.
So
Also, by the way, better sleep in the long run, it adds more years to your life, and lack of sleep can take that time off.
as for the long-term effects, could we ask some questions about that, and would you be able to answer those?
I can try.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, because we also will get statistics and other videos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what, we just have to word it on the spot.
Well, what are you looking for?
Like for long-term effects.
So long-term
Yeah.
sleep deprivation effects.
Yeah.
I mean, so in the long term, like true sleep deprivation, you can look up some research, but some of the studies they've done on homeless people, right? So that's like a good place to look at what happens to someone. In fact, you can become psychotic from lack of sleep. Like you can look like you have